Hello and welcome to the Smart Connections podcast and the Talk the Path podcast. My name is Anna Sanderlin. I am a warm-line facilitator for the University of Memphis Smart Center. The University of Memphis School of Social Work Smart Research, Training, and Treatment Center aims to provide evidence-based interventions for school-based mental health programming, increase access for school-based behavioral health programming in underserved areas, offer training on best practices in telebehavioral health, develop opportunities to research the use of technology in practice, and provide direct services to the state's most vulnerable populations. You can call the Smart Center at 901-678-1636. The University of Memphis Smart Center, in conjunction with the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, would like to present the Pathways to Behavioral Health Careers Project. The goals of the Pathways Project are to provide education and information on the various career opportunities in the field of behavioral health through presentations, increase interest in students in the field of behavioral health, provide opportunities for guidance with information regarding college, university programming that result in degrees for professions in the field of behavioral health, connect students with students in behavioral health programs and professionals in the field for further research. This podcast will feature students and professionals in the field to give a clear picture of the daily duties of these roles and how they help support their communities.
My name is Tara Buchanan. I'm the Director of Disability Resources for Students. I have been with the university since October of 2018, so just a little bit over 5 years now. My history, in terms of my professional history, I have worked at a variety of four-year institutions doing the same work, essentially. So my entire professional career has always been in higher education disability resources. So Disability Resources for Students is the name of the office where I work, and its mission is really to support the university's mission to ensure equal opportunity for students with disabilities to become well-rounded, successful graduates by collaborating with the university community to create a usable, inclusive, and accessible educational environment. And we do this through educational programming to reduce stigma, working with the campus community on good design. And we consider that good design is accessible design. And then also we work with individual students on classroom accommodations.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I'm moving on to our next question. What are the ways that the Institute of Disability engages with the community in order to promote awareness, advocacy, and support for people with disabilities, both locally and globally?
Okay, so, we engage with the university community in a variety of ways. We have three focus areas. One is to reduce stigma. So we do educational programming. In fact, we just wrapped up our Disability Advocacy Week, in which we collaborated with the School of Social Work. We collaborated with criminal justice, with the Counseling Center, a variety of different departments and student organizations in order to raise awareness, reduce stigma, have some really critical discussions surrounding issues for students, facing students and other people with disabilities. Another area of focus for us in our direct community, as I mentioned earlier, is through influencing good design. So the main way in which we do that is I chair a committee called the University Accessibility Committee. That committee has 4 subcommittees. Those subcommittees are the digital and learning environment. One is the physical environment. One is accessible campus events. And one is policy and procedure. And so most of the work from this, the community comes through those subcommittees. And what we hope to do is to influence the design of those various environments just to make them more immediately accessible. And then finally, we, as I mentioned earlier, we engage with our students with disabilities, both to learn what their experiences are so that we can know more about how to create a more accessible environment, but also to work with them on individual accommodations. So even though we work to create an environment that's immediately accessible, a good accessibility plan always involves the ability for someone to request individual accommodations when they're experiencing a barrier. And so we engage with our campus community. Our city community, we are a part of the City of Memphis's Disability Network. We participated this year for our first time on Disability Day on the Bluff. This is where we get to meet with our local politicians to talk and discuss some issues facing our students with disabilities. We also present to high school students and their parents, and we serve as a resource for those students wanting to go to college, whether or not they are going to come to the University of Memphis or if they're going to go somewhere else. We want to help our community members to get connected with the resources that they need on those campuses. We also engage with high school counselors to let them know about our services and to make them aware so they can help their students to connect as well. In terms of state and nationally, we present at national and regional conferences. We also serve as mentors for others in the field of disability resources. And then most recently, we've just extended to sort of a somewhat of a global influence. We took a trip to Mysore in India, and we spoke at the JSS Academy of Higher Education and Research about working with students with disabilities.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Just hearing the synopsis of the work that you've been able to do and just being able to fit so much of that information into an interview, I don't feel like there will ever be enough time to really just give a full breakdown of what you all are doing, not only with students, but other people within the community, even if they're not a part of the university, just branching off with people who are a part of our Mid-South area, just having them be prepared for what adulthood is going to be, just creating and advocating for their independence. A lot of people are unaware of disabilities because of how someone looks or how someone presents themselves. So it's often just people are experiencing not being educated enough to realize that all disabilities aren't visible or disabilities aren't always physical things. So I think that's really great that you all are taking the time to have preparation for those things. And you kind of already spoke on this, but are there any recent research or projects that the Institute has worked on to contribute to the advancement of disability studies or to improve the lives of people with disabilities?
So sure. So I talked about Disability Advocacy Week, and I think it's really interesting that you talked about the invisibility of many conditions, right? So our opening week event was called Removing the Invisibility Cloak. And we actually had a panel of faculty and students to talk about their own experiences with their invisible conditions. It was a very rich conversation. So that was pretty cool. One project that we're working on right now is a collaboration with Physical Plant here on campus. We are trying to find a way where people can report accessibility concerns, for example, and I should say a better way. We do currently have ways that those things can be reported, but what we'd like to do is to make it easy for anyone to report an elevator outage or that, one of the automatic door openers is not working, things like that, that may prevent someone from being able to get to where they need to go, right? So we are looking at some sort of a QR code system to try to make that easy for anyone, whether you have a disability or not. Because if you know there's an elevator out, someone who needs to use that elevator, if you report it, it may be fixed by the time they need to use it. So it just make it easier for our community to report those things. We also have where we have a variety of different assistive devices and softwares that students can be introduced to and be trained on, actually. And so we have a variety of things. We have something called the Glean note-taking software. It's amazing. And the thing about it is, adaptive technologies often can be used by anyone, right? So we have the Read and Write software, which is actually available for any student on this campus. We have something called Census Access that is available to any student, faculty member, staff member, or alumni. And this will take a document and convert it into your preferred format. So it can be an MP3. It can be an electronic format. And it will immediately make it more accessible. So we just have a variety of things that we can share with the community and train them on how to use those things. So that's just to name a few.
That sounds really amazing, especially as someone who has worked or had classes with people who do have invisible disabilities, or just having conversations with them about the different changes and improvements that you all are making throughout the campus. And also just being up to date. Like you said, you all are using QR codes now. And oftentimes, probably a decade ago, people were using pulling the tab for the phone number or having to report things via phone. Like you said, QR codes just make things more accessible, just do something really quickly. And then it also promotes a more effective way to go ahead and just get that information in just really quickly. So for the next person, like you said, it will just go ahead and be just a quick fix. So I think it's really great that you all are providing a tech savvy way to just get that information in. So with all the trainings and programs that you all provide, does the Institute of Disability, is it an affordable and supportive learning environment for the students, for the researchers and the professionals in the disability studies? And what are the resources that are available for the students, researchers, and professionals?
So actually, we are not a part of the Institute on Disability. That is a separate program from us. We are under Student Academic Success. So the types of things that we work with individual students on, and we also provide to the campus community, is we do have an alternative testing center where students with disabilities can come and take their exams with accommodations. We provide some note-taking services through a variety of devices and softwares. I just mentioned Glean because Glean is at the absolute best. But some students would like a lower tech note-taking support. So we try to provide a variety of ways that can be done. We have what's called a text conversion service, or an alternate format service, where we take print documents and convert them to accessible formats for students. We do, like I said, the individual consultation with students and make sure that their faculty are notified of the accommodations that they receive. So we are a pretty busy office. We serve around 1,700 students a year.
Oh,
yes. So I think people are often surprised when they find out how many people with disabilities are actually on campus. So I think I answered your question. Was there more to it?
You did. You answered it perfectly. Thank you so much for sharing that. So again, with the work that you're doing, how do you all approach inclusive education and accessibility within the university and beyond? Again, you did touch on that previously, but I think it's really important that you all, again, this isn't just something that's stopping at a certain campus. This is something that you're wanting to branch off for people within the community. or when it comes to having word of mouth for people with disabilities, they are in a community, and they are familiar with each other. So it turns into a word of mouth situation of, well, how did you help? Or how did you improve your note taking skills? Oh, I got this resource from the disabilities advocates. And I feel like it provides a sense of comfort and a safe space for people to be able to reach out. So again, with that said, how does the Institute approach inclusivity with education and accessibility with the campus?
One thing that we do try to do is to promote something called universal design. Again, universal design is a pretty fancy name. When we're talking about the environment, we're talking about, there are like 7 tenets, right, of universal design. And then if you're talking about universal design of learning, there are 3 tenets. So we try to promote that as much as possible, because what that does, if faculty and it's not just faculty are universal design for learning, but it's anyone on campus, right? It's anyone that plans an event. It's anyone that has the power to influence the design of an environment, the digital environment, the physical environment. If they embrace universal design principles when they are designing whatever environment it is that they have influence over, that will create immediate access and better usability for everyone. In fact, not just individuals with disabilities, but individuals that are, from other countries. It just creates a more welcoming and, like you said, inclusive environment for people. And when people feel like they belong, they do better. They're able to be more successful.
Absolutely. And your contribution to so many people's success is so great that you've been doing this work for an extended amount of time. And not only have your contribution shown throughout our campus, but like you said, you worked at other institutions as well. So based on your history with working with this community, in your opinion, what are some of the key challenges that the disability community face?
Well, so I think we touched on one, because we talked about what are one of the projects that we're working on. Well, we're working on that project to make reporting an elevator that's in disrepair, or reporting an automatic door opener that's not working. I mean, that's something that, while it seems very small, it can have a grave impact, because we're not just talking about students who use wheelchairs. We're talking about a variety of invisible conditions, right, or mobility issues that impact a broader group of people, not just students, but faculty and staff and guests to our campus as well. So you can't always tell if someone has a condition that's going to make it difficult for them to open that heavy door. Right? You can't always tell when someone's not going to be able to use the stairs, because perhaps they have something called POTS, which makes them faint, right? So there are just a number of different things that just makes it difficult to use stairs or to open a door without a power assist or something of that nature. And so being able to report when those things are out quickly and have it addressed quickly, that's a huge issue facing our students. I think something that is always one of the biggest issues can be stigma, right? So even if the stigma isn't the issue, the fear of the stigma, right? The fear if I self-disclose that my faculty member is going to think that I'm not qualified to be in the class. Right. And it's because you have a history, right? You have a history where some people have treated you some kind of way because you did self-disclose, or you've heard that it was going to be that way. And so just trying to overcome and create an environment where it's not a big deal to have a condition, right? We consider that to be a human experience, just a part of human variation. And so it's not something that to be ashamed of. It may be your personal medical information, and you may not want to share everything with someone, but just the fact that you identify as someone who does have some sort of condition, it's not something that is automatically negative.
Right. And I'm so glad that you touched on that, because a lot of people think that having a disability equates to some kind of incompetence.
Right.
So many people are looked down upon because of a disability, or for opening up about something that could just create something that requires a little bit more time, or something that requires a little bit more focus. So it's not saying that the job can't be done, but however, there are some adjustments that can be made for the job to be done just as good as anyone else. Or for people who think that people with disabilities are just completely incapable of holding conversations, or completing work, or having certain projects, or even obtaining a degree. There are just so many things that people with disabilities have to face because of how society view them. So thank you so much for just shedding light on that. So with that being said, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners? Are there any upcoming disability studies related events that are coming up, or any initiatives that you would like to share with us?
So every year we have our Disability Advocacy Week. It's always around the last week of March. And so I know that's a whole year away, but I always like to promote that. And I definitely want anyone out there who thinks that they may be experiencing some sort of condition that's preventing them from being successful on campus or engaging with our campus community, to connect with DRS. We're located in 110 Wilder Tower. The only requirement to meet with someone in our office is that you fill out something called a student introduction form. It's on our website, and you just fill out that form, and then you will be assigned a coordinator who will immediately reach out to you. If you have documents that are readily available and you want to upload those, you can, but you don't have to have those before you meet with someone. You can actually meet with someone and then talk about what is absolutely necessary in order to move forward with accommodation requests. A lot of times we will help students connect with places where they can get the necessary documentation. And sometimes we can even provide what we call provisional accommodations. So we'll provide some temporary accommodations until they're able to get the documents that they need. Those are just a few things I'd like for our listeners to know.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And for anyone that's listening, if you feel like you've been experiencing some disadvantages throughout the campus, definitely reach out and they will make sure that accommodations are made for you. I know that it's really difficult for some people to reach out for help, but it seems like you all have created a system that allows people to just have a regular conversation, just explaining what it is that they're experiencing, and just hopping right on top of just making sure that they receive the best care, and as well as just advocating for those students as well as our staff. There are so many people that have things going on that if there's just a simple conversation that's had, those improvements can be made immediately. So thank you all so much for just creating that safe space once again for our students as well as our staff that are experiencing some disabilities. And just thank you so much for taking time out of your day to meet with me. And I hope that people that are watching are able to reach out if they are experiencing anything like this. We'll be reaching out again for one of our future podcasts. I'm sure there's so much more to share with your program. And again, thank you so much for your contributions to the disability community. And you enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you so much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in to listen to our podcast, brought to you by the Smart Connections podcast from the Smart Center at the University of Memphis, as well as the Pathways to Behavioral Health Careers Project. If you or anyone you know needs any information from the Smart Center, please contact us at 901-678-1636 or email us at smartcenter@memphis.edu. You can also learn more about us at our website, memphis.edu/smartcenter.